Okay, so I just left the gym and I was thinking about a consultation I had the other day about parasites. Is it parasites or is it dysbiosis? Now, in my humble opinion, I think the whole parasite thing is completely overblown. And there's a lot of questionable ways to determine, quote unquote, if someone has parasites. It's not to say that it never happens. I've heard a number of stories where someone in their travels, pick a part of the world, any part, picked up parasites, and they knew this because they then went on to get a conventional test, which showed positivity for parasites, maybe shortly thereafter, or maybe they waited too long and eventually got the tests. And then they eventually took some drugs to rid themselves of the parasites. And on subsequent tests, the parasites were no longer there. So there are legitimate cases. And this could be the trigger for someone's gut problems. The parasites, and then the damage is done, the inflammation is driven, and then the drugs that follow, that can actually drive dysbiosis, which may still seem like parasites, but simply could be gut dysbiosis. So this individual this past week had 3 standard tests for parasites, 2 of which were completely negative, including the last one, and one was almost all negative except for B. hominis. So, and I'm going to have a video on B. hominis in the near future, by the way, Blastocystis hominis. So anyway, he was thinking, well, do I have parasites? And you know, it's difficult to say, but in my thought, my thinking was, doesn't sound like it, doesn't seem like it. It's probably dysbiosis driven from, then we go on to theorize where it was driven from, but not from parasites. I've had consultations where, people were told they had parasites with no confirmation whatsoever. Just, oh, sounds like you have parasites, go on this regimen. And more often than not, and I've heard this many, many times, by the way, and more often than not, these people go on these anti-parasitic regimens, wormwood and things like that, and they come out worse for the wear. They're worse after the fact than when they went in. And these detox things, and all things detox, I'm a little sketchy about. And so these parasite detox things, are concerning. And I've heard many more stories where people come out worse than they went in. So, I'm not saying, I don't know your personal history. I'm not saying whether you have parasites or whether you don't. Obviously, there are risk factors. There are more standardized tests. There are less standardized tests. So I just think, educate yourself before jumping into a parasite detox program, and just consider the fact that if you did have it confirmed in the past, then maybe you no longer have parasites. Maybe it's simply just dysbiosis in the gut driven from that chronic inflammation. And as you've seen in some of my videos, the inflammatory gut will then drive the expression of more nefarious genes within the bacterial pool of the gut microbiome. So, food for thought.